essentially had like a bonus season. They had all those big close wins last year, and they were able to kind of find a way in the postseason, even though a lot of people felt like what happened would happen, that they would be knocked out pretty quickly, and they were. But again, I thought it was a very good learning experience for the young coaching staff and the young general manager. And now it's about taking that step up this year and start to really take advantage of that experience. You still have a veteran quarterback in Kirk Cousins, so this is a team that no one would be surprised at because now we're getting later in Kirk Cousins' contract and his career, that sooner or later you're going to have to look for either the immediate replacement or sort of like the Jordan Love, Aaron Rodgers kind of replacement, where you bring him in for a couple of years and then Cousins just departs, and then you could bring in your quarterback. And I think this is the year we could start seeing that happen. I was intrigued by the signing, the signing of Josh Oliver from Baltimore. Mm-hmm. What do you think about Oliver? Because he had he seemed like a really good, he has good blocking skills. Hawkinson, we know, is a good receiver. Feels like they solidified their tight end position with that one move. Did you like Oliver come out of college?
I did, and it's funny. I talked to the tight ends coach there when he was coming out, and they said it's going to be a 2-year, 3-year project for him, but he's going to be a starting caliber tight end, and it's exactly what happened. And I even think he was hidden behind Mark Andrews a little bit at Baltimore, just didn't get the amount of consistent looks that he truly deserved, and I'm not saying he did deserve to get them in front of Mark Andrews.
But they had four tight ends, including him.
Yeah. Yeah, and then Isaiah Likely comes out of nowhere last year and gives him that slot tight end. So, I'm not saying he's coming into a situation where he is the starter, but I do think this team is going to use him at a high level, especially because they are down a receiver. They lost Thielen, and I know they like KJ Osborne, and Jalen Naylor's going to be entering his second year. But I think you're going to see a lot of 12 personnel out of this team with 2 tight ends on the field.
Smart, and
he'll be a big part of that.
Yes, but they have to replace Thielen some way, somehow.
Yeah, and they will.
Yeah, how dangerous this offense could be if they actually used their first-round pick on a receiver. I don't think that's the way they should go, because they have some serious defensive back questions we'll get into in just a second. But if they decided, hey, look at all this, all these other players and positions taken ahead, and the receivers just keep dropping and dropping and dropping, maybe it'd be tempting to take a guy like that. And what I'm talking about is I don't know, it could be Jigba, it could be Johnson. Who do you think could end up as the number 1 receiver?
I think Smith-Njigba is going to be the first receiver taken, but I think he's going to be long gone by the time Minnesota's on the board. The second receiver taken is probably the best question in regard to Minnesota, and I think it's a tie right now between Quentin Johnson and Zay Flowers. I think and they're completely different players too, so it's really going to be based on, are you looking for more quickness and separation, Zay Flowers? If you're looking for more size, vertical speed.
What do you think Minnesota would be looking for?
It's funny. They took Justin Jefferson, number 22 overall, and now here they are sitting at number 23 overall. They're seeing other receivers being taken in front of them. I think in terms of the fit, if they're looking for – I think they're more of a separation type offense, meaning they want quicker yard-after-catch types, and that's going to be Zay Flowers from Boston College.
All right. Yeah. All right. So, on offense, because you take a look, Madison's back. You look at the offensive line, and you might initially go, especially last year, we got a lot of things to worry about here. But, Bradbury played well, which was a big relief. Darisaw, we know he can play. O'Neal is still doing a solid job at tackle. They don't have any issues on the outside. Now they're set at center again. It's about guard, and they drafted Ingram and played him, so you think they're going to do that again. I love the fact they got Chris Reed as an insurance policy. The biggest question of all is the other guard spot. I don't know if they can count, even though he was a second-round draft pick. That was a different GM. That was now going to be 3 years ago. So and we don't really know about Ed Ingram too. So I could definitely see at some point early in the draft the number 1 need outside of potentially going for a wide receiver being a guard.
Yeah, offensively, absolutely.
Yes.
Offensively, the Ezra Cleveland has been very up and down. He was a left tackle at Boise State. You gave him a pass by moving inside in that first year. I think he got rushed into action, if I remember correctly, with injuries popping up in front of him. So he got beat up a little bit. You saw some progress in 2021, and last year he kind of took another step back. So I think at this point he kind of just is what he is, and you're going to have to probably think about a long-term future option at left guard that, maybe not a year one starter, but I think there are going to be options there. I think you could find another Ezra Cleveland in this draft, meaning a tackle that you're going to want to move inside after a year or two.
And by the way, what do you think about the possibility of them using not necessarily their first pick, but using another pick, could be the second pick on a quarterback?
I mean, I'll tell you what, you asked me to put money on where does Hendon Hooker go in the draft. It's to Minnesota at 23 overall with that first pick.
Yeah.
I mean, Cousins is a free agent next year. He's not signed past 2023, and he's 35 years old. And I think you kind of already know what you're getting out of Kirk Cousins as your starting quarterback. You're just not going to get over that hump. He'll get you to the playoffs. Sure. He will not get you through the playoffs.
I like it. So that's another look. They're going to have some options, especially because when we talk about the defense, their biggest need being corner. Because you've got the Booth, who's always injured, which is the reason he ended up as a second-round pick, and he got injured again last year. Scene got injured as their first-round safety last year, but he's a safety, and they're set. They're okay at safety. But with Booth, with the injury history, you're relying now on a fourth-rounder from last year who didn't play a whole lot. You're hoping he could definitely be a starter. But even at that point, there's just too many question marks with the two other cornerback spots on the outside after they went after Byron Murphy, which was a much-needed signing from Arizona. But even though they brought in Murphy, and even though they spent 2 early-round draft picks at corner, they need to do it again. They have to.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, this organization, different regimes, but this organization has been putting a lot of resources into corner, and they just can't figure it out in the draft. I mean, they just can't get one right. And this past year, they lose their 2 best corners in free agency. Patrick Peterson and Duke Shelley are both out of town, and I like the Byron Murphy signing as a nickel, but you can't rely on Booth, just like the Titans can't rely on Farley right now until he plays a full season of injury-free football. But Caleb Evans, I did like him coming out of Missouri. I'd like to see him in year 2, but if year 1 is the indicator as to what he's going to be in the NFL, it's not good enough to be a starting corner. It's good enough to be a number 3 or number 4. So this team could use 2 picks in the defensive backfield, and they could be early as well.
And by the way, what do you think about the kid they drafted when you look up front? The kid they drafted in the 5th round, because they signed Lowry from Green Bay, but Lowry and Phillips, they're just kind of okay. They're nice veteran, players that can do okay for you. And actually, there's 2 questions. One is about the 5th round draft pick, and the other was the blossoming of the kid Tonga, who played a very solid, nose for this team last year. So how surprised were you about that? And what about last year's 5th round pick?
I mean, nose tackles are like relief pitchers to me, right? Like, you just can't get surprised. Like, sometimes it really is a scheme or surrounding a coach that really just gets them over the hump. And that's why, it's another reason why you don't put a lot of resources into a 3-4 nose tackle unless he's special, right? And, it looks like he's found a home here. I like this defensive front, both the starting lineup and the depth. I don't think it needs to be touched in the draft. Right. Like, I think they can look in even the edge guys.
So what do you like about the kid from last year?
Otto
Mayo. Is that how you pronounce his name?
Yeah. So he is 5th round pick from last year. He's an every down player.
Okay.
Right. He can play inside. He can play outside. I think he's the best edge setting 3-4 defensive end they have on this team. But it does not come at the expense of being able to rush the passer. He's got rush moves. He's not just a bull rusher. Does not have enough speed to rush the edge, but that's not why he's there. He can run. He can man 2 gaps. I mean, this kid's going to be in the league for a long time.
Like it.
And you're not going to hear his name often, but he's a good player.
Okay, so there you go. And again, because Bullard's another guy that adds depth to the unit, so it looks like they're in pretty good shape up front. All right, so as we move on, we're pretty much in agreement on defense. Cornerback is their their number 1 overall need on the team, and then offensively, Will they go quarterback? Is this the draft to do it? Probably. At what point? Could be first round. And then take a look at that offensive interior at guard. And also, don't be surprised if they swing for the fences and add another wide receiver early. So,
yep. Options are all on the table for the offense.